How the police get around your right to remain silent. Let's get into it.
5 ways cops trick you out of your Miranda rights. You have a right to remain silent. We all know this is one of the most revered constitutional rights we should look to exercise when talking to the police. But did you know police are trained specifically to make you feel so comfortable that you end up waiving this very important right? In this video, we will examine the tricks cops use to get you to waive your Miranda rights. You have a right to remain silent, and cops are required to read you your Miranda rights if number 1, you are seen to be in custody, which means you are not free to leave in a conversation with the police, and then number 2, if the police officer tries to interrogate you by asking you questions. Failure by the police to read you your Miranda rights during this situation could lead to an illegal interrogation, which could mean anything you say would be thrown out in court. It's a shame that we don't learn these very important constitutional rights in school so that we are protected from the tricks of the trade used by cops to get us to start talking. In 1966,
A lot of things we should learn in school rather than having to learn it the hard way through life. We should learn financial literacy in school instead of having these classes that aren't going to benefit us at all. Only things we should only have to learn things that we're going to have to use in life. Yes, we should have different language classes because it's good to learn a different language just in case you want to travel the world or just to help you in life, because nowadays, literally, like I remember a girl told me in middle school, a girl literally told me this. She said, on some real shit, she was a Mexican girl. She spoke English and Spanish. She told me straight up, she was like, when we get older, if there's a job that's hiring, they'll technically pay me more, or they'll hire me before you because I can speak 2 different languages. And she was fucking right, because to this day, there are certain jobs that I've looked at that are looking for someone who can speak English and Spanish. Especially, we have a lot of Hispanic people coming into America working at these jobs. They want a person who can speak both languages. That way you can lead a shift and understand what's going on from both sides. And she was right. And that's one of the things you should learn how to do math, but only math far as adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Anything else does not even matter unless you unless you want to go to college and learn that kind of stuff for a specific job or something. But bro, all this stuff that they teach us, bro, you're never gonna use it in life. I've never used algebra in real life. When I go pay for something in the store, I don't need to know what X plus Y equals B. I don't need to know that, bro. None of that stuff is even relevant.
That's when the United States Supreme Court first ruled that police officers must read you your Miranda rights if you have been arrested and they're trying to question you. Initially, police were outraged. The police were just certain that people would never confess to crimes anymore or give any type of incriminating statements. However, after a few years, the police weren't complaining about it anymore because they knew it didn't really matter. In fact, they discovered, based on how they read the Miranda rights to you, that it really didn't have any effect on a suspect's behavior. Instead of remaining silent or asking for a lawyer for assistance, most suspects, after being arrested, ignored the Miranda warnings altogether and started answering all the cops' questions. Why? Because police started using tricks they knew would work really well to get people talking. Trick number 1, cops read you your Miranda rights very quickly and then ignore your response. Here's how they do it. The officer quickly reads you your Miranda rights in a monotone voice, not waiting at all for your response. Why? Because police have now made it easy to insinuate that your Miranda rights are really not all that important and they're just a formality to get out of the way. In reality, these rights could be your last best chance to save yourself from what the police are about to do. Some officers don't even bother to stop and ask, "Do you understand?" after reading you your rights, because they don't want to give you the time to stop and think about whether you want to talk. Now the real question is, why do cops do this? Why do they just treat it as a formality? It's because of their training. They have been specifically trained to quickly get through the Miranda rights as a formality because they see it as an obstacle to get you to talk and get on with the evidence for their case. Now, this next move is an example of how cops will sometimes stack trick on top of trick. Immediately after reading your Miranda warnings, an experienced cop will start asking questions like, what is your marital status? What is your age? What is your employment? Really easy, simple questions because they want to get you comfortable starting to open your mouth and talk. Once you have been obediently answering a long string of these questions, human psychology will take over and you will find it difficult to stop talking in the middle of questioning. This is even true when the police officer's questioning will begin to shift from your personal background information to very pointed questions about the crime, the alleged crime, and how the officer already knows that you're the prime suspect. If you don't immediately invoke your right to remain silent, get ready for law enforcement to ratchet up the level of the tricks that they're going to use to get you to start talking. Here are a few common arguments police use when they're trying to convince you to answer their questions. And I want you to notice the false assumptions with each one of these. Trick number 2. What's your problem? We're just trying to clarify what happened here. And by the way, since you didn't do anything wrong, what exactly do you have to be afraid of? This is a false assumption by the police. If you don't answer questions, you just must be hiding evidence of guilt, right? So much for the presumption of innocence. The truth? The constitutional right to remain silent would be useless if it branded you as guilty simply by using it. That's precisely why, if you invoke your right to remain silent, both police and prosecutors are forbidden to use it against you in court. In fact, during a trial, if a prosecutor even implies that you remained silent and that must have been some evidence of your guilt, your defense attorney can object to this and call for a mistrial. Trick number 3. When we're done here, I'm going back to the office and I'm writing my police report. And that report is going to be the basis for the DA deciding who to prosecute and for what charges. Right now, all I have for my report is what the other guy said happened. Of course, I understand you don't have to talk to me, but as far as my report goes, this is your last chance to tell your side of the story. Here is another false assumption by the cops. If you don't tell your side of the story to the police, this will be your last chance to talk your way out of being prosecuted. They make you believe that by cooperating, you can talk your way out of the situation. And I want you to understand, this almost never happens. Cops either already have enough evidence to establish probable cause to arrest you, or they don't. If the cops don't have enough evidence to establish probable cause, you are hurting yourself by talking to the police. You are giving cops the opportunity to now read your body language, maybe any hesitation you have when they ask a question. They are now given the opportunity to interpret anything you say or don't say as possible evidence of guilt. If cops do already have enough evidence to establish probable cause for an arrest, nothing you say or do will talk them out of arresting you. The truth, you can never assume that police officers are neutral, open to listening to both sides and deciding what actually happened. It's their job to collect potential evidence against people. Prosecutors are not always neutral parties either. Although prosecutors should be focused on justice prevailing, many times you will find certain prosecutors really focused on getting a guilty verdict. So if you're a suspect and you tell your side of the story to the police and to the prosecutor, who by definition are not on your side, you are the only one who is going to lose. The right person for you to confide in is your defense lawyer, which is why you have a Sixth Amendment right to counsel. Your criminal defense lawyer can then tell your side of the story to the jury, who are the only people whose job it is to listen impartially to you. Trick number 4. Look, man, you're busted. There's no way you're getting out of this. The only way this is going to get better for you is if you just tell me what happened. If you take responsibility now, it'll look a lot better when we get to court. False assumption by the cops here? Absolutely. Do we really believe the prosecutor and the judge will respect you if you immediately confess to a crime? Not a chance. The truth? Prosecutors will think you were pretty dumb to confess to the police about a crime, and they'll be very happy you did it because it will make it much easier for them to prove their case. In theory, a judge might give you points for cooperating with the police, but remember, judges don't get involved in plea negotiations. They only get involved if your case goes to trial and you are found guilty and you go to the judge for punishment. Sad to say it, but the judicial system has become a numbers game, where many times judges will start pressuring both the state and the defense attorney to plea out the case prior to trial in an effort to move their criminal dockets. Perhaps one of the most common questions I get is, what if you are actually guilty of what the cops are claiming you did? Let's be practical for a minute. From a strategic standpoint, admitting guilt is only useful if you hold it in reserve. That way your lawyer can use that as leverage to help you get a better plea deal. Confessing before negotiating is like going to buy something you really want, putting all the money you have on the table, and then asking how much it costs. Whatever you do, never accept or ask for advice from the same officers who are now trying to question you.
Right.
They are not there to help you. Remember, officers have been specifically trained to put you at ease and make you feel comfortable so that you will trust them. Their job is to find, arrest, and convict the suspect, and it very well could be that suspect is you. Finally, what if cops come to your home and strategically try to ask you questions while your kids are around? This is a terrible situation because I have seen cops use the presence of those children as a way to manipulate the potential suspect to either try to confess to something or, more commonly, get them to agree to a search. The soft approach goes like this, which brings me to trick number 5. They'll say, hey man, listen, I see that you're here with your kids, and I don't want to make this any harder on you than I have to. I'll tell you what, if you sign this form and answer a few of our questions, I'll let you make a few phone calls so that someone can pick up your kids. Or cops could go more hardcore and say something like this. You know, I could put a call into Child Protective Services right now and they would be out here within the hour. Do you know how hard it is to get your kids back once the county gets a hold of them? I know this is a very tough situation, but it is critical to say the magic words. I exercise my right to remain silent. I will only answer questions with my lawyer present. No matter how frightened and upset you may be, you should strongly consider resisting the temptation to answer questions in a situation like this. In the short term, if you refuse to cooperate with the police by exercising your constitutional rights, it is true that the cops may follow through with their threat and take away your kids for a short time. However, in the long term, you have now protected yourself from being wrongfully charged with a crime so that you can ensure you're back home with your kids for the long haul. When you answer questions or you consent to searches, you sabotage your chance of being able to win your case. By the way, as long as there are designated guardians or relatives that you can allow your children to be in custody of, your children are not going to end up in foster care. The county has no interest in spending any resources on taking care of your children if it doesn't have to. So if there is a relative or a designated guardian, there's a very good chance your children will be released to them anyway. Now, what if you do choose to remain silent when cops start asking you questions? Do cops have a Fifth Amendment loophole that allows them to use your silence?
Man, that's crazy though, but at the end of the day, just be like straight up with them. I'm not talking, and soon as they try to keep asking you questions, don't say nothing. There's nothing they can do. What they're gonna do? Hold you at gunpoint? They can't do that. This ain't a third world country. You know what I'm saying? Where they can just try to torture you or something. Well, I'm pretty sure that's happened before, but they got cameras, body cams, and dash cams now, so you really ain't got too much worry about that. Appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'm going to catch y'all the next one. I'm gone.